Welcome to Vision Chat, a podcast about spiritual topics, with your hosts, Virginia and Stina. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Vision Chat. Today, Stina and I have the pleasure of interviewing Yesenia Maldonado. She is a licensed clinical social worker, certified yoga and social emotional learning instructor with over 25 years of experience working with children, teens, families, and communities as an agent for support and transformation. She is an innovative leader who has experience working as a school social worker, community and school-based mental health clinician, adjunct professor, and executive director in the nonprofit sector. Recently, she started Yes Real Connection, where she helps individuals and organizations set and reach their goals. Fun fact, Yesenia believes in the power of play so much that last year she opened a board game cafe with her husband of 26 years. Wow, Yesenia, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So, where do you want to start? Tell us about yourself, your whole life story. Don't leave any details out. We have an hour, so go for it.
Let me do it. Let's have these years. I think at the end of the day, I'm a human being just kind of seeking connection. I'm a curious person that loves to learn and loves to be with family. And I feel like anytime I think about who I am and kind of what I bring into the space, I just try to be authentically who I am and really just try to see connections with people and learn from them. So that's, I think in a nutshell, I would say that's who I am. I'm just a human trying to make good connections and make a positive impact out here.
Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about how I don't know if you want to start with there's so many roles that you're playing these days, but I met you as my boss, my supervisor, the person that gave me a shot in the mental health field. So do you want to start how did you get into social work? Do you want to go that far back?
Yeah, sure. I feel like it's in my blood. I feel like I come from a long line of social workers and just community keepers of secrets, but also of movement. And so my grandmother was kind of that person in the neighborhood. I hear stories about her trying to seek better education for kids in the community. And so I feel like I grew up a lot with those stories. And originally I thought I was going to be an attorney because I love to argue. And I thought, that's what you had exposure to. I didn't know what a social worker was. And so I thought about, I like to debate people. I like to make a difference. So maybe attorney is my route. And I also, my dad died when I was really young. And so he was accepted into law school. So I just thought maybe let me live out that life channel for him. And I think ultimately social work just called me. I think I've always been that person or friend who folks have confided in. My mom used to joke that she's like, people just see you on the bus and tell you things. And I was like, I don't know. I think genuinely is because I do have a general empathy for people and I seek to really support and make a difference. And so I feel like, I listen and I seek to listen, I seek to learn. And so I feel like I brought that into my relationships with people. And then, a friend of mine was, she was going on vacation or she was going on maternity leave from a job. And she happened to be a young mom. And she's like, hey, can you cover my job while I'm on vacation? Or on maternity leave. She called the vacation. And I said, sure. And I was working at a mental health facility, really just supporting kids before they went into their appointments to see the clinician. And I was on break from school and I did it over the summer. And I was always curious, what happens behind that door? What kind of this kid comes in and they're wired and there's all these things going, and then they come out and there's a sense of calm and there's a sense of centering, and I always wondered what is going on behind there. And I would ask the clinicians and I'd be like, what do you do? How does this how do you do what you do? And they're like, you do the same thing, before you do the same thing when you see them in the playroom, you listen to them, you play with them, you try to help them, and we do the same thing. And I thought, yeah, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And that's where I shifted gears and just said, that's my path.
Oh, and wonderful, how it kind of came to you in a sense as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any labels that you prefer?
I was so beautiful that you listed like, healer and, advocate and social worker. And I read those and I thought to myself, I oftentimes say I'm a social worker. I'm a lifelong social worker because to me, the how I define it is really encapsulating all of those things. Like I am advocating for things to be better for those who are not at the table. I am seeking to kind of heal those who come for support and heal communities who have been damaged or hurt in oppressive systems. And so I seek to kind of do that. So I think when I say social worker, it embodies a lot of those pieces of other titles. So I would say I wear that one with honor, but also with an understanding of the complexities that come along with the social service sector and its challenges. But I think the way I seek to define it is one that's really there to channel as a path for hope for others.
Well, that's where I was thinking advocate for you.
Yeah. Yeah, for
And
sure.
I smiled a little bit when you're like social service sector. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
To work.
Yeah, it is. I am that for sure. I am that person where I'm just going to try to speak what's unspoken in a space and try to seek that justice for sure. And I've had the honor and privilege of seeing Virginia grow in that space as well, in all those different arenas of what that means. So, yeah.
Well, can I just say, I mean, you handle it with such grace that I think, for me, growing up in this field, being a young professional, because we're talking like 20 years back.
Yes, yeah. He's in that 25-year spectrum.
We're way back there, yeah. So like back in the day, like growing up, seeing people, and the way that they worked. And for me, with you, it was like, wow, like how do you handle both sides, right? Like the box within, the box that we live in to work in with people, what we're allowed to do, what we can do, what we can't do, because it's very limiting at times, and then wanting to help people and provide them the best services that we can offer and just being able to navigate that.
Yeah.
And I always thought you handled it with such grace.
I appreciate that so much coming from you. I really admire that. I think, yeah, it's definitely something where I've tried to lead with curiosity, but in curiosity, like really just questioning kind of what's at hand. And also just seeking to learn. Like I will always, I always sought to learn from people I was supporting, from family dynamics. I was always curious about, if it was different than my upbringing, and also just learn like sometimes what not to do, like what's not helpful. But I think in political settings, I try to really like, at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's really trying to get whatever it is done. And so I try to get myself out of the way and just say like, okay, this needs to happen. How do we make it happen? Well, I'm assuming you have best intentions because that's what I have. And so even if you don't, I'm going to assume you do because I need to be able to partner and collaborate with you to see this happen.
What are you up to these days?
Yeah, these days, I enter into a different like kind of realm of love of life. And so I am seeking to kind of just have experiences. Like, I'm in the stage of my life where I'm looking to kind of travel and experience things differently. And, I started, I wanted to be able to, open my own practice and, really offer a space where I could do things a little bit differently than spaces I've seen and operated, and kind of be able to do things in a way that truly seeks to make a difference for people in the way that I think is most beneficial for them, but also recognizing that there are organizations and businesses that will never lose access to people. So how do I help them kind of examine themselves and look in the mirror and see how they can do a better job and be equitable in the way that they're doing this work? And so, yeah, so I just started a private practice just to kind of start to explore that realm of things a little bit more. And Virginia's been an excellent support and kind of guide in that process. I always feel like people come into your life for certain reasons. And, we meet each other at a certain stage. And I was at a stage where I was like, I was, had been in this profession a little bit longer and we're, seeking to kind of help guide and shape the professional you became, and now I'm entering this new space and realm where you have been in a while, and you're able to kind of really support me and kind of help open my eyes to different ways to kind of try to do this and explore this. And so I'm eternally grateful. And then I do something totally outside of like that social service realm, but I think still in a helping profession. So you mentioned in my bio, like this power of play. I've always loved play. I've played with clients I've worked with. We've from playing Uno to checkers to like, I feel like it just is this layer that provides a different level of innocence. And I loved playing as a child and still continue to kind of do essence of that with my own family. And in my partnership, like literally just came from a trip with my husband, and we were playing spades on the plane. Like we will play cards, we will do we will just hang out. We collect cards from different states we visit. Like it's a very much part of who I am and how I connect with people. And so we opened up a board game cafe because we had close to over 200 games in my own house, and always brought people together to just like have fun and just play games and hang out as a community. And we just wanted to share that with others. And so, so that's this whole other part of my life that I get to tap into and meet amazing people, like from all walks of life, like people like of all ages and families and single people and dates. It's like incredible just to kind of have that space in Chicago, this little nook on Irving Park in Pulaski, where people just kind of come and gather. And it's such an interesting community to get to know and also see people in different ways. Like I felt like sometimes people would come to me as a social worker in crisis, and I would try to introduce this part of like decompressing and just kind of like being together and hearing each other. And then I get to just experience that with people who are not in crisis. And that's a beautiful way to kind of interact with people, because sometimes when you're with people who have so many challenges, your view becomes like, wow, everyone just is struggling. Everyone's having such a hard time. And then you realize that there's a whole other world where like, it's not a daily struggle all the time. Everyone has problems, but it's not an everyday struggle. And so it's opened me up into like this whole other way of kind of interacting and connecting with people, which has been really uplifting. Yeah.
So nice place too. So I recommend everybody that is in Chicago to like take a trip there, because it is really nice and the food is so good as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. How did you came up with the idea of all of this?
Yeah, so we evolved, like really the idea, the board game part was always part of it, introducing people to just gaming and having fun. And then, we thought, well, we have some food and something light, like sandwiches or something, coffees and stuff. And then, so much of what we know how to cook is our culture. Both my husband and I are Puerto Rican. So we're like, well, if we're going to do it, like, it's going to be us. Like, it's going to be, we are Puerto Rican. We love Chicago. Like, it's also very Chicago. Like, I love my city for all its quirks and challenges and beauties. I love being, I was born and raised in Chicago, so I know Chicago well. And I think it's a beautiful city and beautiful people here. And so we're Chicagoans, we're Puerto Rican. We both love our island, love our culture, our food, our people. And then we love board gaming. So it literally is just us. Like, it's like, if people didn't like it, we were just like, well, it's us. Like, it's all we know. And so it came to us, it was a long journey that we got there, but so happy that we did. And it's hard work. Like, we're only a year into it, and it's so hard, but we've learned so much about ourselves as a couple. We've learned so much about people in community, and also people come from, like, somebody came from, oh my gosh, so from Japan, and they were coming, and we're like, what are you doing here? They're like, we're interested in opening a board game cafe in Tokyo, and we wanted to see how it was. And we're like, oh my God, that's incredible. Like, you would come to us little microcosm in Chicago. It was shocking to us. And people come from all over. And it's been really fun to just, like, we were those people going to places and trying to figure out how to do this. And now people are coming to us. So it's humbling, and it's exciting on this journey for sure.
That's unbelievable. How crazy.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, people are like from all the way around the world. I was like, it's surreal. It is really fun. Yeah, really fun.
It is a beautiful space. I mean, I know from just personally being there, it's like you walk in and it does feel like you're transported to like this little Puerto Rican island, like because the decor all, like
Mm-hmm.
it incorporates the culture and incorporates the play, and the walls are covered with games, and it's just so
Mm-hmm.
friendly. It's so
Thank you.
warm and inviting. And the food too, I second what Stina says. It's amazing. You could tell there's love in the food. Like it
Yeah.
tastes so good, but it's warm and it just warms up your soul.
Oh, that warms my heart because we were really just like we wanted people to feel like they're coming to our house for a game night. We wanted people to feel like they were coming, just to not have to worry about things and just kind of come and have a good time and come to our home and welcome them in as if they are a guest in our home. So that makes us feel wonderful because that's exactly what we were going for. We just wanted that home feeling for sure.
Well, and everyone's involved. I mean, your husband runs
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
You are there also, I
I am.
mean, doing everything that needs to be done. And your mom, I think, has also
My
helped
mom
out with.
comes to every Boricua bingo the fourth Sunday of every month. So she's at every Boricua bingo, helping me there with calling out. My mom's many of those recipes are from my upbringing and Jose's upbringing. Our families come. It's like they're coming to our house on Sundays. They come there on Sundays and we get together. My daughter works there every Sunday. My son was running D&D campaigns there. So like it's a family biz for sure. We're all a little bit involved and have a little hand in things and for sure.
And your daughter also runs the social media, right? You guys have a nice
Yes,
Instagram
yeah.
account going, so we'll link that up too.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's all her. And my husband, I will give Jose credit for that
Oh,
too.
oh,
Yeah, he's
nice.
gotten better. She's taught him well.
Good.
I will greet you in. I will welcome you in. I will give you a nice like, hey, how are you? Chat you up. But that's the extent of my social media. Just being social, not the media part.
I hear you. I have the same struggles. If it wasn't for Stina, I'd be totally lost. Yeah. So I also do want to add a little bit more to that because I've been there and just kind of observed, like how you're saying, like all people from all walks of life, and it really is. I mean, you
Yeah.
can go and just people watch people.
That's true.
It's amazing. You see
Yeah,
all kinds, families, little kids,
it is.
older
Yeah.
people, like single people there on
Mhm.
first dates. Like
Yes.
it is a great, like if you're looking for a nice first date spot, that's
It
it
is,
right there.
yeah, it really is. And people, it's nice to just get to know each other playing Battleship or like Uno or something that's familiar, but also there's like even a few games where like you're asking questions of each other. So like if you're having a difficult time starting a conversation, this kind of literally helps you kind of get to know each other in a different way. And you get to enjoy, some people come just for coffee. And what warms our heart too is like some people don't play games at all. They just come for the food. They come enjoy the atmosphere that we have, which is beautiful and we enjoy that. And then other people come like they're hardcore game players and they want to play the games and they want to. So it does have a little bit for everybody, which is really nice. Thank you so much.
Yes. And now so I was reading in your bio and I don't know about this, but maybe you can talk more about the Yes Real Connection.
Yes, so that's my newest baby and venture. So that is really just that opportunity to help individuals who are looking for support. So definitely that traditional kind of like mental health support and also just connecting to what folks need to feel good about themselves and what's getting in the way of them being at their best and really helping them through that. And I've always, a lot of that work I've done with young people. And so that is an area where, I want to continue to work with our young adults. Currently my other job is working in a school system, and so I really try to create different experiences for our young adults in the education system. So I'm hoping to carry some of those things over into Yes Real Connections and really supporting individuals do that work, and then also contracting with schools to be able to do do that social emotional well-being work that needs to happen at the school level to really educate our whole child versus like just one part of our children. And so kind of helping support people kind of do some of that. And then just helping our nonprofits. I was, an executive director for some fun times and just knowing what I needed as a leader that wasn't really available to me in the way that I needed it. Especially as a woman, as a Latina in leadership, and knowing what I needed as in that space and hoping that it was there. Really, just trying to be that opportunity for other nonprofits to be able to develop their leaders in a way that they feel supported, understand that, caring for their community and caring for themselves need to go hand in hand. One can't happen without the other. And I think as somebody who was in leadership, for a good period of time and really dedicated to the mission of the work of Between Friends where I was at, I think one of the hardships I had was really sacrificing then what I needed for myself. And when I think about things that I regretted as a leader, I left that position with a lot of guilt because I was given this opportunity to lead an organization, do all of this great work as a Latina, invested in, and one of the few around the table at the city level and at other tables of being able to speak voice to that, but just burning myself out so much and not even seeing another way through it. And not even seeing like there was other possibilities to do both. I just was like, I literally came in one day out of my car and I looked at my husband and I was like, this is the last day I cry in my car. This is the last day that I am feeling so stressed that I can't function anymore. I was like, this has to change. And I wish I would have had somebody to coach me through what that could look like and still continue down the path in leadership. And instead I was like, yeah, I just got to go. Like, I just have to cut everything out. And I think I always say, there's angels and things that follow you in life and help you down certain paths. And I say, that happened for me to be able to be here. I learned from that experience, then to contribute to other folks who are feeling in similar ways and thinking, how can I support them so they can make choices that are best for them and not feel like you just have to cut everything off. Like, can you recognize the signs earlier? Can you be more gradual to give yourself grace in those moments? So I would say that's been an interesting path there for sure. And so I think, yes, Real Connections grows from the desire to keep people in the roles that can help them grow and also help organizations be a culture of calm and connect and support versus some of the challenges that I think could have been avoided.
Do you think that was kind of like a bit of a crisis moment for you at that point? Is it fair to call it that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was at a professional crisis moment for sure. There was a lot of, I had led an organization through a merger, really acquiring another nonprofit. I had led them in like 2 years of no state budget. Like we were like in survival mode with cuts. And I really, I worked really hard to not have any cuts of people's jobs, but, downgraded kind of what we did and worked really hard to keep people in spaces. And yeah, it was a ton of pressure. And I always, so I left there right before the pandemic. And I also feel like in some ways, like that was like God or a higher power saying like, you're not going to make it through that. You can't even make it through this. Right? Like, so in some ways I feel like I went back to Puerto Rico. I went there and I reconnected with my culture and things that were important to me. And I remember my board president at the time saying, like, hey, well, why don't you maybe just take a break and then you can come back, like take a sabbatical and then come back. And, so you don't have to make this. And I was in such like a wreck that I was like, I don't know how to leave you without just totally leaving. Like that's not your problem, that's my problem. But I don't know how to leave, like, and not think about every day, like what is happening there and how are people getting things that they need. Like I couldn't make that break. I couldn't even psychologically think about it at the time, how to do that sabbatical. But I think in hindsight, I probably could have taken that and done that and been in a different place. But at the time I was like, yeah, no, I just need to go. And then like probably like less than 7 months later, the pandemic happened. So then I was like, yeah, probably best that everything went the way that it did. Because I don't know if I could have, thinking about where I was at that point, I don't think I could have led that. I could have, but I don't think I would have been at my best leading them through such a difficult time. I think they had a new leader who was fresh with ideas, fresh with creativity, fresh with energy that they needed at the time to lead them through that. So we'll say at the end of the day, I was also in a better place too.
Well, it's a great thing that you followed your your gut sense then at the end of saying, I think I just need to go? Because that
Yeah.
takes courage. A lot of times people, they're like, no, we got to power through it. We got to get it done. And that's not always the best thing.
No, I never left the job not having another job. Like I had no job. I had no plan, no job. I just know I can't do this anymore. And I was like, I just need to I tried to ease them as best as possible, but I was like, oh no, I can't imagine this is the rest of my life. And so yeah, no, it was hard, but so necessary. And yeah, definitely hard, one of the hardest decisions. And I think if I had to do it again, I don't know if I would have landed in the same spot. I might have done things differently, knowing what I know now in terms of along the way taking better care of myself and taking and really just kind of doing things a little bit differently along the way. But yeah, no, absolutely. Saying no at that point in time was saying yes to myself, and that was the right decision.
How was your time in Puerto Rico? You did some important stuff down there.
I did. I enjoyed it so much. So I did a volunteer project. I was fixing roofs from Hurricane Maria and Irma, the recovery efforts with that. Yeah, it was so important to me to, if I was leaving to something that felt like it was going to fill my cup, and that absolutely did. I got to I was in Yabucoa, I was in Huacao. I stayed in all these small places. My family came out to spend time with me while I was there. Yeah, it was I look back on that time as extremely fulfilling between I did some very I was in a room with a ton of people from all walks of life as well, from people who were there taking a year off of school before they went to college, to people who were retired, and people who were just on self-discovery, what's next, myself, what comes next. And I met some really interesting and really fascinating people, but I also met local people that it was like family. That was important to me, to be around people and giving back to an island that I love so much, and I spent many summers at my family with. So it was beautiful. Yeah, no, I love Puerto Rico. I love spending time there, and if it was a place I wanted to give back to, that was it. So yeah, it felt good. Yeah, it was a great time. Yeah, I did 2 volunteer programs: planted trees and fixed roofs. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, my manual labor days.
Yeah. What would you recommend other people if they want to take more care of themselves or doing self-care?
Yeah, I will say now I think about all the dimensions of self-care differently. I do think about that mental health part of it clearly, and your mental well-being is a important part of it, and finding who your people are that you can talk to in those moments that are difficult. And I think also your physical well-being, and making sure that, and just being mindful about what I'm putting into my body in a different way than those late mint, late lunch, late one meal a day, because I was barely running around all day long, and then just eating late at night, and just then just feeling starving, because I deprived my body all day. Just being mindful about what those small pieces, and that physical well-being is so important. And spiritually, I think that was a part of myself that I always stayed really well connected to, but I think for some people that might be a part that does fall off. So I think those particular parts, in kind of just connecting, and the connections that we have with people, and just making sure that all dimensions of well-being are addressed. Because I think I'm not if I got my hair done, or my nails done, that doesn't fulfill me. I think some people kind of think of that as waste, and if by all means those little moments bring you joy, by all means do whatever brings you joy. And for me, it's kind of always taking inventory of all those dimensions of well-being, and making sure that each of those are kind of in balance, because when one is out of balance, it can kind of skew everything. So I think that's the part that I really encourage and invite people to think about and reflect on in their lives, and thinking about how to bring those places in balance for themselves.
What is your relation with spirituality?
I do consider myself a woman of faith. I was raised Catholic. I will say on my journey of trying to figure out how to get back in a different way, I actually went and worked for the Catholic faith community. And in full transparency, did not find the fulfillment that I was hoping for in that space. But I do think it led me to where I am now, which is still a woman of someone who, you know, during this time of Lent, which is something that I recognize, I read reflections and do a 3-minute retreat every day. That it's an email that literally comes into my inbox, and I just read, and it's a very quick prayer, but it starts with deep breath, and it starts with centering yourself, and it starts with being present to whatever power is around you or whatever is present for you. And that, starting my day with that every day, has been really just, it enters my day in peace. And it also is one of those, it's part of my practice. So I do that 3-minute retreat. It's like literally on Loyola Press. And I think multiple faiths and communities have a version of that. But I do appreciate it because it's literally probably sometimes less than 3 minutes of my day. Because honestly, I can kind of but it always starts with like deep breaths, and it ends in prayer or in some kind of reflection. And also a question, like a question about like, hey, how are you present to what is around you today? How are you contributing your gifts to make other people's lives better? Like, it's always like a pondering question that I take into my day. And today's was around how are you present to the gifts that are around you? And so that was my question for today.
That's so nice. I love that.
Mhm.
And, you know, when you're talking about taking deep breaths and centering yourself and like that focused
Mhm.
awareness, actually, Stina and I do that too in like meditation. Those are the
Yeah.
basic things for
Hmm.
meditating. And it's, you can call it, you know, whatever you want. There's
Exactly.
so many labels, but we're all kind of doing the same thing.
I agree. I agree. It's just kind of really just allowing yourself to like be in your body, be in your spirit, be in your moment. And it's one of the things that attracted me to kind of looking at yoga in a more deeper practice. And kind of because I had always done yoga as part of my way of kind of, you know, feeling like I'm doing something physical with my body, but something that felt like it was a good connection for me. And so figuring out how to do that in a more meaningful way was and just really think about the art as a practice and as something to bring in, and also the background behind it and the complexities that come along with the background behind it.
Did you get into yoga? Because I know that that was something that you started a little bit more seriously later on.
Yeah, so I, you know, actually was one of the things I did after I had my daughter. So after giving birth, I started as a way to kind of just become like get in shape again and just kind of like stretch and kind of be present. And then I just found it extremely like centering for me, especially the new mom, not really like all the things that come along with that. That was like new. I thought it was a really good way for me to like, hey, when she's crying, like how do I just like center myself and think about this before I go into the room, and just like also taking pause before reacting. And it was one of those things that it, you know, I had a great yoga instructor, and it was just literally at a local gym. He was really just had done yoga for a long time and just really understood all parts of it. And I remember it being a really great time in my life, you know, as a new mom, and just kind of just taking pause on things and not feeling like I always had to have an answer right away for people, but that I could take a moment and think about my response. And so that was really helpful then. And then I lost it along the way. And then in times of kind of like when after leaving between friends, I was doing yoga on the beach with in Puerto Rico, and that was reconnecting for me. And then I thought I would love to think about how do I bring this physical part of the work into some of the emotional work that I support with people. And I found a program that combined social emotional learning and yoga. And I thought, yeah, that's it. You know, so got certified in that and have been able to bring that into the communities I work with at a small level, but I hope to kind of have that be part of Yes Real Connections at some point as well.
Going along with the yoga, do you feel like, because I feel like that's unfortunately one of the things that's missing from like, especially like Latino communities, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I often think like, oh, I want to recommend, you know, this client do yoga, you know, look up this YouTube video. But, you
Mm-hmm.
know, if they're Spanish speaking or something, you know, well, not that
Yeah.
you need to use the language so much because you could see the movement, but how nice would it be if you could find it in
Yeah.
Spanish, you know, like, and I feel like that's kind of missing. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely space for it for sure. And I think we could do a better job of kind of introducing it into communities. There is a place, and I'm right now the name is escaping me, that I know during they were doing like video ones, you know, when it was during the pandemic and there were people doing it on Zoom. There was a Spanish speaking one that I did find and I would recommend to people. And it was a Spanish speaking instructor and she was had done it for years. And I remember being like, wow, like she's like a little bit older and she's been doing this for a long time. And you know, she was delightful to get to know. But yeah, she did hers all in Spanish. And so I think they're out there, but I think it's different for people. And I think sometimes there's also a lot of thoughts about that come along with it. So then I think sometimes it's overcoming that barrier of it, of like whether you can't do it, whether it's not spiritually aligned to like whatever your faith is. And so I think part of how I just try to enter into that is that, you know, God is everywhere, and how you take in that breath and how you take in that for you is yours alone. And how you, this is the vessel that we have is a gift, and how you choose to use it and how you choose to stretch it is yours to do with. And you know, it's one of those things where I think there's definitely room for it. My mom does it with me. So I know that, like, I know it can, you know, and so I think as you get ambassadors of people who are doing it, I think it gets better. Like, yeah, I host just a small little group at, you know, at the cafe. Like, you know, we'll try to do it once or twice a month. And my mom's there, my aunt's there, you know, so my daughter, my, you know, friends who are from all walks of life. So it's been nice, you know, just it keeps me present to it, but also I think slowly introduces it to other people. And there's modifications of it. If this move can't work for you, there's like 10 other moves that can. It's figuring out how you want your body to move and be present to. But I think there is definitely room for that. I would agree with you. And yeah, for sure.
I was really surprised about the conflict with, you know, certain beliefs, I guess, the spirituality piece, because I mean, I remember there was at least one person that I had, she was a client and I recommended, I said, hey, you know, this would really help.
Yeah.
Center yourself and find some peace and, you know, these movements. And
Mm-hmm.
she left all excited. And then she came back next session and she tells me, I can't do the yoga you told me to do. The pastor at my church said that that's demon worshiping or something. Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, I cannot.
Yeah.
I don't even, you know, I can't address that. Everybody's beliefs, you know, I have to be respectful of everybody's beliefs. But I was really, really surprised. And I thought, wow, I really didn't put that, you know, it did not enter my mind that could be a possibility.
Yeah, nor mine. I will say, yeah, yeah, nor. And it wasn't. I think there is. I'm escaping me right now, but there is a name of a Christian type of reflection that is very similar to meditation. It is a Christian meditation that folks do. It doesn't have as much around like the movement of body that and the stretches as yoga does, but it does have a lot of like almost like the chanting and the different levels of it. And I remember doing it because when I first started to do this work, clearly there's a program called Calm Classroom. And so when I worked at the Archdiocese of Chicago, I wanted to bring Calm Classroom into our classrooms for our Catholic school students. And I received similar resistance, not from the majority of people, but I would say like a small segment of people saying like that is not, you know, like we don't practice that. And then so I did my research, as we need to do sometimes when you read those obstacles. And then I found this other practice and I was like, oh, actually, you know, I found this and maybe this fits better. And it also aligns really well with Calm Classroom, what they already do. And so that's how I got it in. But I think the initial reaction was from whatever you've been told and whatever, you know, things, you know, that this is something different. And then to find that it had some grounding in faith, and that it had its, there's a way to do it that is very much aligned to faith and actually supports your connection to a higher power in a very meaningful way, led it down, you know, different paths. So we were able to get the Calm Classroom in our schools. But it's, again, it's the advocacy. I think it's also like, instead of like, I was like, oh, I'm curious, like I'm going to try to figure out and learn more about it and see if that is in fact accurate. Because I was like, oh, tell me where I can find more information about that. And they couldn't. So I was like, okay, so I need to find my own information. So it was an interesting thing. And it was, I remember it was an attorney I worked with. He's like, well, parents might have an issue with it. I was like, they can always opt out, but we should like try to get our kids regulated and feeling good and just breathing. So it works.
Good for you. Good
Yeah.
for you. See, that's the advocate in you. I
Yeah.
gave up. I was like, no, I got nothing.
Well, I think there's also like, I'm not, we're not in a, we don't have to debate it. Like if you say it's not good, then okay, it's not. But like I also like there's a broad old community out here. Let me figure this out for sure. But
And it's so wonderful how you adapted to that. You're doing your research and kind of finding a middle way for everybody.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's more misconceptions around yoga?
I think it does have I will say a complex history from what I learned in my training. And, it does have things around certain types of yoga that, was really a lot of those positions were based on what young 13-year-old boys could do versus what you find a lot now. It's more women of a certain age group or like a certain body type that do it more. So it's a little different. Like, so some of those poses, like your body just doesn't do in the natural way. And so there's, definitely certain parts of it that that have complexities to them. But I also I also feel like whatever you need to do to feel good in your own body, yourself, is important. And so whatever path that takes for you, this happened to be mine. And if it resonates with you, great. I'd love to share it with you in the ways that it's worked for me. But I oftentimes, like, even when I'm teaching yoga, I will always say it's an invitation. I invite you to do this, and you have an opportunity to not accept that invitation, and that's okay. Or if your body, lends itself to do this, I will say, I try to be very trauma informed as I approach and, healing centered as I approach the movements, and say, if this doesn't work, this might be something else you can try, or like, wherever the space takes you, as long as you're not feeling pain, because it shouldn't be painful and it shouldn't hurt. So whatever you're doing, if it's causing you pain, let's retract from that. So I would say that's probably something that's just, again, I try to support wherever people are in their process and in their journey for sure.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And for people to kind of listen to their own body too and feel what is right or wrong instead of overriding it. Is there any type of yoga that you do? Because I know it's a lot of different types of yoga there.
Yeah, so there is a lot. I do probably probably the most calm, like very mild yoga. I do, the way I was trained it was called trauma informed yoga, that has its roots in kind of some traditional forms of yoga. I will say the other one that I've been finding out more intriguing is Nagurta yoga, which is like a sleep yoga. I don't know if you all have looked into that at all, but I did it once with somebody who was in training for it, and literally is at rest. It is the entire time. It's just being at rest, feeling comfort and being in rest. And it's really fascinating to me. So I've been more intrigued about that one as of late. And just kind of exploring that part of it, of just how does just really being at rest and just allowing your body to be totally centered and at peace, and not do any movement at all. It is really focused on breath and relaxation, and getting into that deeper form of relaxation. So that's been a fascinating one. I just did 2 classes in it with a woman who is getting her certification. I was invited to do it, and yeah, it's fascinating. Like that one, I was like, wow. I was like, you don't even realize how much you need that rest until you get it, and you're just like, and you feel also your body temperature almost goes down, and then it allows you then to find warmth. And yeah, it was really beautiful. So that's been my most intriguing one lately. So, but yeah.
Okay, but you fall asleep during that, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
That would be me.
Yeah, no, you absolutely do. That's what makes it so amazing, because before you know it, there's this little thing, and you're like, oh my God, I was asleep. And it was but also a different kind of sleep, because it's so interesting to me. Such a deep rest that I think is not one that I get to experience at nighttime a lot. So to be, yeah, you absolutely do go to sleep. If you're doing it right, you're in deep rest.
I say that because I know I nodded off during meditations in my classes a couple times. Don't tell my teacher. I was out.
It's all good though. You gotta listen to your body, right? That's what it said it needed.
So you are certified.
I am, yeah.
You're doing
I am.
classes, right?
I
Okay.
did, yeah. No, I do. I haven't done them as often. Like right now, I feel probably most comfortable with friends and family to just do it like in that way. Like I'm not opening up a studio anytime soon, but no, I'm registered. I'm official. And just
I'm
trying to
waiting for that
also
studio to open.
That's who knows, you never say never. You never know where the path takes you. But at this point, it's been something that it's really been great to be able to just practice and bring into my practice more often, for sure.
Beautiful. Well, do you have any like favorite books, podcasts, or any resources that you would like to share with people?
I was thinking about like what have I been reading lately, and I just started reading Racial Innocence. It's Unmasking Latino and Anti-Black Bias. It's by her name is, I think, Tanya Catari Hernandez. And someone gave me the book, and it's been fascinating to me because I think for me, as just kind of thinking about just thinking about just anti-blackness in general, but then I think about the way I was raised. I think about people around me, and just thinking about that particular book has been like, as I do equity work within education, I have found it to be a really grounding piece of just kind of examining my own bias, examining things that you do so, unconsciously, and also recognizing how ingrained that might be. And also to truly have equity is to kind of reflect on those things and unmask them, but also thinking about, like, so my brother, my sister, and I have different dads. And so my sister, if you saw us both together, you would probably not even realize we're related, because I'm short, very light skin, dark hair. But my sister is tall. She's an Afro Latina. She has darker skin. She presents very differently, and so people don't oftentimes connect that we're related. And some of the things that are said in her presence, things that I know growing up, people commented to her about her hair and like, you should straighten it or you should do this, And I think about just other people in my life, just like small things that we did growing up that you're just like, I remember my grandmother telling me to always pinch my kids' noses. So, and I was just like, why would you do that? But like, I was like, they'll not breathe. But she's like, no, it's so their nose comes out pointier. And like those small things that you have like grow up with that you're like, oh my God, that is so like it's just, and so like being able to kind of like read about people's experiences and also recognizing how many things are ingrained in my own Latino culture that I need to examine. Yeah, it's been just an interesting journey. So I was talking to someone about it who is a Mexicana, and she was telling me how she's much darker skin, and she was just talking about different things being raised in the same family. And so I was like, I'm going to read that book because I feel like it'll have very interesting revelations for me just growing up with my sister and other people in life. And so, yeah, so it's been Racial Innocence. It's unmasking Latino anti-Black bias, I think, and the struggle for equity. I think is the complete like subtitle. So that's what I've been reading lately. I also read a tons of curriculum and tons of other stuff. And I definitely appreciate the invitation to podcast because now you're introducing me to like the podcast life. So I'm very interested in exploring this part of the world too, for sure. Do you guys have anything that you're currently reading?
Oh my God. We have a list. We have like this huge list of going because the thing is we ask all our guests, and what we're doing is, when you go to our website, we have a tab that's like for free resources. So anybody that you don't have to sign up for anything, you just go to the free resource page and you're going to see like all book recommendations. You're going to see links to websites, connections to people that, and so I've been like just working through that list. There's like 50 books there right now.
Wow.
It's quite a list. I mean, I just finished reading and this was one that Stina was like, hey, have you read this yet? Because we had just had a guest on that, I think 2 in a row that recommended the same book. And I was like, yeah, I think I have to read this. And it's The Untethered Soul or Untethered Souls. It's really good.
And that one's my list.
Yes, and
Yeah.
feel free to go to our website and just check all
Yeah,
the books. There's some really
definitely.
good ones
Yeah.
there. There's some
Good,
really
good,
good ones
good.
there.
Awesome.
Yeah, and the podcasts are cool too.
Seems
Ours is
great.
pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. I appreciate you both so much having me on and just asking such insightful questions and just being genuinely interested. I appreciate your time so much.
Oh, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking time. Do you just want to tell at the last part, how can people find you and what service do you offer?
Yeah, so I do have, I would say for Yes Real Connections at this point, definitely send me an email if you're curious about learning more about how to receive those services, whether it's mental health services or seeking to kind of think about how to improve the culture with your organization, build your teams, or any kind of support in that way. And so that's Yes Real Connections at gmail.com. Nice and simple. And then in terms of Stay and Play Game Cafe, which is the board game cafe that I own with my husband, we do have a website, which is www.stayandplaygamecafe.com. So that is tons of fun. You'll see all the games we have, the menu, some really cool pictures. I don't know, Virginia, you might even be on one of those pictures for all I know. Who knows? Who knows? Definitely in all our events where people are meeting up and building community together are on there as well. Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Vision Chat. You can find more about us at visionofprofoundhealing.com, where we offer readings, courses, and classes.